So how long have you known about the Israel Tennis and Education Centers?
Well, I first learned about the Israel Tennis and Education Centers way back in 1983, which was actually my first year as a tennis professional. I had just turned pro, and my first tournament as a professional was going to be at the Ramat HaSharon Center in Tel Aviv. So I was fortunate enough to win that event, which was a great experience for me, and an even better one that it happened to be in Israel. I was there with my parents, so we got to see firsthand what these centers are all about. And overall, it was just a tremendous experience and a great learning curve for me as a young 16-year-old boy to see what these centers were all about. So that was the beginning for me of learning about how wonderful these centers really are.
How would you describe the Israel Tennis and Education Centers?
Well, I would say they're wonderful and amazing places, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, I have not been there in many years, but I've seen a lot of the kids who have been a part of the Israel and Education Centers, and to me, they're amazing places. They offer so much in opportunity and hope for these young kids that normally they wouldn't have. I think from an educational standpoint, from a tennis standpoint, obviously tennis has a lot of life lessons on and off the court that you get, but these centers offer so many more things that most people probably don't recognize. And all the kids that I know are kind, respectful, humble, and it's hard not to feel good about this organization and what these centers do for these children in Israel. Well, the Israel Tennis and Education Center's alumni that I've met and know over the last 30 years is pretty incredible. Amos Mansdorf, Gilad Bloom, to name a few, they were one of the first kids that really put the Israel Tennis Centers on the map. And Andy Ram, I was fortunate enough to meet in the last few years doing some exhibitions with the kids here in the United States. And what I find most about them is that they're all very kind, respectful, humble, great people who obviously have learned so much from these centers. And growing up there, I think anyone who has known them, certainly me, and who has been involved with them on the tour, knows that these are really great people, and people who have learned so much from being part of these centers and being on the tour and seeing what they've accomplished, not only professionally but personally afterwards, really makes you feel good about what they're doing over there in Israel in these Israel Tennis and Educational Centers.
Name Israel Tennis and Education Centers.
Well, I think changing the name from Israel Tennis Centers to the Israel Tennis and Educational Centers is a brilliant idea. Obviously, tennis is a very intricate part of these centers, and always has been and always will be. But to include education in the name is just tremendous, because when you think of young kids and what education can do for them and the learning curve that they learn at these centers, the life skills, the mentoring that goes on at these places and these centers is just a wonderful opportunity for these kids to learn about life, to learn about being with other kids from different ethnic backgrounds, and just in general, it really is a game-changing thing. So to get people to know that it's just not about tennis, and education is a big part of these Israel Tennis and Educational Centers, can only help in the future with all these places in Israel.
Aaron, what are the great life lessons that you can take from playing tennis? What does being out there on a one-on-one or doubles format actually teach you about life?
Well, a lot. I mean, I think all sports do, but certainly tennis, you're out there by yourself, so you learn a lot about winning and you learn a lot about losing, and how you cope with those two things, and I think are life lessons in itself, because you see a lot of tennis players and juniors growing up who have maybe bad tempers or can't control their emotions or learn to play under pressure. So I think tennis gives you that opportunity to learn some of those values that can actually be helpful in other phases of your life. Competing at a high level, playing in front of people, having that pressure, expectations, all stuff like that you grow up, and I think through the junior ranks, especially if you're successful, how you channel and deal with those things are extremely important. So those are just some of the things, and of course if you make the top tennis, or even if you're a top junior, playing around the world and having those experiences, getting to visit all those places and different venues that I got to compete in are pretty cool experiences and things that I'll always remember.